Yes, hello. My name is Andrew Fracknoy, and this is a talk about OpenStax Astronomy, which is a free open source textbook, and also about the community that the textbook has made possible. Let me move on to the next slide. As many of you in this community know, OpenStax is a nonprofit publisher headquartered at Rice University, and their aim is to create a free textbook for each introductory course that students take during the first 2 years of college. So they have textbooks from mathematics and physics all the way to psychology and history, and they're working on more books all the time. This project is supported by various foundations, including some large foundations, the Gates Foundation, the Hewlett Foundation, and others, and by contributions from students and faculty members around the country. Um, our book is cleverly entitled Astronomy. In fact, all the books have the title of their subject as the only thing in the title. And you can find out more about it at this simple URL, openstax.org/details/astronomy. We were delighted to be asked to be part of this remarkable project, which is really quite ambitious in scope. We are the senior authors of the textbook. The three of us, Sydney Wolf, whom you see on the left, David Morrison in the middle, and I, seen here a couple of years ago. The three of us have had quite a bit of experience writing astronomy textbooks. We've written them for commercial publishers, but the last textbook that we did was eventually owned by a conglomerate, a huge corporation that actually owned through acquisition 6 competing astronomy textbooks at the same time. And as you can imagine, the sales representatives going to colleges had a lot of trouble distinguishing between and among these 6 uh, textbook lines, and it was a mess. You could ask a representative to tell you the advantage of our textbook over the other 5, and they really didn't know what to say. So as a result of this, I think rather bizarre business decision, and the fact that so many companies are becoming intergalactic conglomerates instead of sticking to things they know, but I shouldn't editorialize. As a result of this, our textbook was severely neglected and began to wither on the vine. So the opportunity to write a textbook for this new project, this nonprofit project, was quite interesting to us. And we did do quite a bit of the writing ourselves, although we had help from a big cluster of our colleagues. This is a star cluster out in the Milky Way galaxy. About 70 astronomy educators and research astronomers helped us to update and revise the text that we had and to review it for pedagogical effectiveness. And we were really grateful for the help from such a large number of our colleagues. The nice thing about writing a book, which is free, online, and open source, is that it can be updated each year. The decision to update a commercial textbook with its printed copies is quite a major decision, and it involves uh, killing trees and working with a whole host of designers and editors and production people. And a great deal of energy is put into the decision when to update each book, even in a field like astronomy, where a lot changes and you're tempted to do a lot of updating. It's a major decision to go with a new edition. But there's nothing like that for an online textbook. We only disturb electrons. We don't kill trees. So just about every year, there's enough new in astronomy, and adopters send us suggestions about what could be improved about the book. We get dozens of suggestions from adopters because there's a simple way of doing it online that OpenStax has available. So between those suggestions and the new developments in astronomy, just about every year, we are able to update the book. And if there's some incredibly exciting new development, we can update it in the middle of the year as well. For example, last time we updated it, there was a beautiful new picture from the sun showing you the dark spot, a dark spot on the sun, which we call sunspots, in more detail, in higher resolution than had ever been possible before. And you can see this dark and therefore cooler area on the sun with the United States here to scale, to give students a real appreciation of the vastness of our star surface and the detail which we can now see on the surface layer of the sun, which is an incredibly complex combination of hot gas, great convection bubbles, and magnetic fields influencing the behavior of the sun's surface. I think it's fair to say that astronomers have been waiting for a high quality, professionally edited, free textbook for a long time. There have been noble attempts to put a kind of amateur textbook on the web free, but this is the first time that a really professionally edited textbook has been made available as a free resource that anyone can use. And of course, as you guys in the open education community know, it's not just students who can use the book. Other instructors can benefit from the book, and many, many independent students, readers all around the world who are not necessarily taking a course, but would just like to learn astronomy on their own, are also reading the book. I know, for example, in my ResearchGate listing, we now have something like 75,000 people who have downloaded this book. We know that introductory astronomy is a major way in which students in colleges and universities take their general education distribution requirements. We estimate as best we can that between 250,000 and 300,000 students take the introductory astronomy each year in the United States, maybe also including Canada. The vast majority of these are not science majors, but people majoring in other fields who have to take a course in science for general education. Estimates are, by the way, that roughly 1/3 of the students taking the general education astronomy class are in fact at community colleges where financial constraints on the students are even greater, and a free textbook is an even greater gift in the life of a student who has very limited resources. So it's gratifying for us to be able to present this book for students who often have trouble buying a commercially produced textbook. Some of the characteristics of this textbook are that we've tried to write it in everyday language with a minimum of jargon, and we've tried to define the technical terms as we go along. We've also included touches of humor. This is actually a cartoon that NASA made available, not an agency known for cartoons, but here in fact is a cereal box with the unknown dark matter. We astronomers know that the universe is made up not just of what we can see, but of something quite mysterious called dark matter. And here's a dark matter cereal box to amuse the students. But even more, we've tried to put in humor into the questions and into the discussion that involves students making reference to their own experiences and talking about everyday life when we give examples to make things clearer from the astronomical world. The book is pretty comprehensive. The printed version, which is available print on demand, is almost 1,200 pages long. And we made that decision to have such a comprehensive book on purpose, because the thing about astronomy is that most students rarely take a second course. And so it's in fact not required that an astronomy course include a particular sequence of topics or a particular selection of topics. And astronomy is a huge field now with all kinds of sub-branches and way too many discoveries and ideas to be able to include them all in a semester or quarter-long course. So the joke is in astronomy that there are as many different syllabi, there are many different ways of teaching Astronomy 101 as there are instructors in the United States. That every astronomy instructor teaching the introductory course does it her own way. And so we've tried to make the book modular in the sense that you can pick out one chapter or even one section, and except for maybe some vocabulary, it pretty much stands on its own. And so instructors can assign only the chapters or chapter sections that they want, and then they can essentially produce a shorter book of their own choosing, given the open source nature of the textbook. One of the things we're especially pleased with in the book is the end of the chapter materials. We not only have a clear glossary of key terms, we have a section by section summary of the chapter. We present resources for further exploration. And by the way, such resources are also scattered throughout the book. Since it's an online book, students can click a link and be taken to a short movie or a demonstration or more information about an astronomer or a discovery that piques their interest. So, but the resources are then also summarized at the end of each chapter. There are a host of review questions, thought-provoking questions that we think students can do in discussion groups, calculation questions for those who use mathematics in their introductory astronomy course, which is by no means all the instructors, plus collaborative group activities, activities that require students to gather in small groups and to do discussion or carry out an activity together. And we know many instructors now really like this as a way of structuring their classes and structuring their discussion sessions. So we've included what we think is probably the largest collection of collaborative group activities in any textbook. The good news is that the free textbook, since it became available late in 2017, has been adopted by more than 1,100 instructors around the country. And just this year, we've learned that over 500,000 students have now used the book. Those are the registered adopters. That is, those are the instructors who have registered with OpenStax and told OpenStax how many students they have in their class. In addition to that, there are, we think, many dozens or even more of unregistered instructors who simply didn't bother filling out the registration form, but have been using and appreciating the free book. And so we think this is a lower limit to the number of students who have used the book so far. So that's very gratifying. And the company has calculated that students have saved more than $40 million in their astronomy textbook costs so far as a result. Recently, because instructors have asked us for it, we've added for instructors only in the instructor password protected section, multiple choice questions, about 1,100 of them, that are many of them more than just a regurgitation of facts. Many require thoughts or require you to apply what you've learned in new situations. And a few of them even have humorous situations in them so that students can get a chuckle on their exams. Of course, the question bank is only secure if everyone keeps it secure, but we thought it was something worth doing. Still, many instructors have asked us for a learning management system with grading options and with more questions than just these. And so there is a company that works with OpenStax called ExpertTA, and we have worked with them to produce a class management homework and quiz platform, which is called ExpertTA Astronomy. And this includes 1,100 multiple choice questions, some of them the same as in the public version, some new, about 1,200 true or false questions, an enhanced set of numerical problems with randomly varied numerical values. So two students sitting next to each other or in communication online will not get the same problem. It includes some graphical questions, questions that involve drag and drop or matching, ranking and sorting or review. And then all the essay questions at the end of chapters are now included in there as well, although the system can't automatically grade those. You have to grade them, and then you can add easily the essay graded points to the points that the system itself has given the student. The expert TA folks have some unique approaches to security. They have an academic integrity tool suite. We are able to remove our contents from answer sharing sites. And there's good integration with the kinds of learning systems that many colleges use, like Canvas, Blackboard, and Moodle. So you can contact Expert TA to get more information about this. Unfortunately, this is the one thing in my talk that is not free. This is provided as a paid subscription, but it costs a lot less than any of the commercial learning management systems. So in that sense, we think it's still affordable for many of the classes in colleges around the country. Of most interest perhaps to this group is that we have created an open educational resources hub to go with the textbook. This is accessible from the instructor resources menu. And this has been a great success, much to my surprise. We have 40 resources in the hub already, some of them provided by the authors, but many of them provided by adopters, by instructors around the country. Among the resources we have available are short videos that go with each chapter, with links to each video, a set of free lab manuals that are also online that can enhance an Astronomy 101 lecture class, a guide to the best sources for instructors who are just getting started using astronomy images, a multicultural guide to astronomy, giving resources about the astronomy of other cultures and cultures of the past, PowerPoint slides for each chapter, debunking astronomical pseudoscience. Many of you may have heard the recent and incredibly annoying stories about UFO pictures taken by military pilots that no one can explain. And these gullible stories have appeared in places like the New Yorker and 60 Minutes, and they turn out to be complete nonsense. People are perfectly well able to explain these military pilot photos with everyday earthly phenomena. There's no need for alien spaceships. Anyway, there's a guide there. Let me not editorialize too long. There's a guide there for how instructors deal with such fake science or pseudoscience. There's free software that simulates the entire sky called Stellarium, and a guide to using it is on our resource hub. And then there's a nice primer for teaching your first astronomy class. A number of resources, as I say, have been contributed by adopters from around the country. For example, Lauren Woolsey at Grand Rapids Community Colleges contributed her proprietary lecture slides and short videos she made summarizing the information in each chapter. And for instructors who are just getting started, these are extremely useful to have, and we really appreciate her contribution. I've created a Black Lives in Astronomy resource guide for instructors who want to make sure that we feature people of color in our discussions and our example. This gives you a guide to where you can find out more about the life and work of Black astronomers of the past and of our present day. There's also a guide to women in astronomy. Women have made great strides in astronomy. Our co-author, Sydney Wolf, for example, was the first woman in history to be the head of a national observatory, but there's still a great deal of work to be done for women to have an equal role in a science like astronomy. And this guide gives you much more information about the challenges and triumphs of women through the ages in astronomy. NASA has produced, mostly through the work of Sten Odenwald, an astronomer at Goddard, NASA has produced a really nice guide to astrophotography with your smartphone. And we've gotten permission to put that online because it's not so easy to find. So we put it into our resource hub. There's also a topical guide to science fiction stories that feature good astronomy. So if you want to help students find, maybe for a paper or just for enjoyment, good stories about Mars or black holes, you can look up any topic and find science fiction stories that have good astronomy in them. Some of those are available free on the web, including, I might say, 4 that I wrote that are available on the web free of charge. The nice thing is that OpenStax has recently created its own app for phones and tablets, which you can use to not only download each OpenStax textbook to your phone and tablet, but to manipulate it in ways that resemble having a textbook in your own hands. For example, you can highlight sections and the highlighting stays with your copy. You can take notes and insert them into your copy. You can mark pages, bookmark pages you want to come back to. So this makes using the OpenStax textbooks a lot more convenient for students. And of course, students love being able to make it portable on their phone or their tablet and not have to rely on plugging into a major desktop or laptop computer. And so we were told that 100,000 people downloaded this OpenStax app the first 3 weeks it was available. So clearly there was a need for it. And I think many more people are now using that as well. And that's available both for iPhones and Google phones from their stores. You simply go to the title OpenStax and the store will find it. And again, this is completely free of charge, like everything that OpenStax does. So this is the story of how we have used this amazing project to bring the universe and the cost of textbooks down to earth. And we hope that this is something that will assist many more instructors of astronomy and individual learners of astronomy in years to come. Again, you can find out more about this project at openstax.org/details/astronomy. If you are an instructor or a librarian, you can register and have some of the material that OpenStax makes available, something that you can then have access to. But anyone can go to the Open Education Resources Hub. So if you are an open education person, and you'd like to see what resources are there, or if you are a librarian approached by students saying, well, what can I do? How can I learn about this or that? You might refer to that Open Education Resources Hub. And again, if you go to the textbook website and go to instructor resources, you don't need to register to have that Open Education Resources Hub available to you. In fact, you can go directly to the OER site and then find it if you look for OpenStax Astronomy in the search field. So we hope that this is a project that you can let your instructors, your faculty, and your students know about. And we hope that my short discussion of how we did it will resonate with others in other fields, and that we will see a flowering of open education textbooks available in years to come. Thank you very, very much. And I'm happy to answer questions if you're in the live session about this particular topic. All right, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to stop recording at this point.